that when you begin to think about where we are today, and I'm hoping everyone is taking the necessary precautions to protect themselves from this COVID-19 pandemic. This particular pandemic has shown us the weakness of our supply chain as it relates to medical supplies and also pharmaceuticals. The fact is that we have got to make certain that we are manufacturing the PPE and also pharmaceuticals here in the United States. And so we've got to make certain that we incentivize those companies to provide the manufacturing of our pharmaceuticals in the United States. And here's the weakness. We are short. I've spent most of the day talking about this issue with our healthcare, the CEOs of our healthcare systems here in Dallas County. Baylor, Scott and White, Parkland, and also Methodist Hospital. All of them, without exception, have told me that the biggest issue is being able to get reagents and swabs in order to conduct tests. That's equally applicable to pharmaceuticals. From the standpoint that we're not able to get the materials for pharmaceuticals here in the United States, we've got to go, we have to go into different countries like China, et cetera, India, in order to get those materials to manufacture pharmaceuticals here in this country. And so from the vantage point of that manufacturing, we have got to make certain that as a country, that to the extent that we are providing funds to do research for pharmaceuticals, that people in America have the ability to kind of look at what the cost of those pharmaceuticals are and make sure that we continue to reduce the cost of them. So bringing them back in the country to manufacture, to the extent that we are making certain that we are investing in the research of the different patents that are being obtained, that taxpayers have got to make certain to be able to help reduce that cost from the different pharmaceutical entities that are selling them.
And on that same vein, Senator, could you elaborate on the testing? How would you have approached that? What are some of your thoughts on the testing or the lack of testing in Texas? And also, can you give us a little bit of how do you feel about the state opening up for businesses to start to get the economy back rolling?
Well, let me start with the last one. I will never, ever put wealth before health, okay? And so we've got to make certain that it's within our interest, our public health interest to reopen businesses. Do we have to reopen them? Yes, we do. But we've got to make certain that it's done in a manner that does not impact or negatively impact public health in this country. As it relates to the testing, the two types of testing. Right now, we've only tested about 2%, less than 2% of all of the 29 million people here in the state of Texas. Do we need to test everyone? No, we don't need to test everyone, but we sure need to be testing people in areas that are considered quote unquote hotspots. We need to do that. We need to be making certain that we're going to our nursing homes where we're seeing most of the deaths that are occurring and make certain we're testing there also. And then on the other side, once we get the test, we've got to make certain we're able to turn the results around as expeditiously as possible. We're not able to do that in terms with the federal government because there's only 2 testing labs that are being utilized in order to analyze those test samples. And so I think we need to decentralize the testing in terms of in the state and in this country, and in terms of the labs that are analyzing the test, that needs to be decentralized also, so we can have a 24, no more than a 30-hour turnaround in test results.
And then just one more point on that, then we're going to move. I have 2 more questions that just popped up. In the African-American community and those communities that are primarily hit harder economically, what is your feeling about the lack of testing in those particular areas and locations? That's
exactly. All African-American communities are not hotspots, first of all.
Right.
But in those communities, be they African-American, Hispanic, or Anglo, where we're having these hotspots, we've got to make certain that we do a better sampling in those areas of persons to make certain that they're not carrying the virus. And again, talking to the heads of the various healthcare systems, they say that the way that they're looking at it is that if a person did in fact manifest the virus, and in most instances, and it became somewhat chronicle. They would show up in the emergency rooms, and they're not seeing a bunch of people show up in the emergency rooms, and there's adequate beds that we have in each one of these hospital systems in order to accommodate persons that show up. That's not to sit up and say that we're not going to have a recurrence of this, but that's just the current status.
And we once again want to thank the Dallas Democratic Party here in Texas, particularly the Texas Dallas Democratic Party, for helping to sponsor this town hall virtual meeting. This is very, very critical and important. And we just like to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to understand that the Dallas Democratic Party is committed. We want to thank the Honorable Terry Barker and Dr. Catalina E. Garcia, Hamilton Wingo attorneys. So also, Tollison's Law, we'd like to thank them as well. And of course, the Honorable Carol and Dan Donovan for their wonderful support and sponsoring this town hall virtual meeting. I have another question for you, Senator.
Sure.
It is about filibuster rules. Do you favor keeping or eliminating the filibuster rules?
Having used the filibuster rule myself, I favor keeping it. And here's why. I think that when you're in the minority, you've got to be able to have a voice. And if we do away with the filibuster rule, then the minority would never be able to have a voice. And you've got to understand that I've been a state senator now for, this is my 27th year, and I've served in the minority most of that time. If I was not able to filibuster, if I didn't have the option to filibuster, I would not be able to make a record on critical issues. Here's an example. If for some reason Wendy Davis wasn't able to filibuster, she would not have been able to engage in the filibuster for women's rights, women's healthcare rights back in, I'm gonna get the year wrong, but back when. And so I'm in favor of keeping the filibuster rule.
And let's jump to another interesting subject that's becoming a little sore spot. The postal, President Trump seems to be attacking the postal service, which is going to cost a lot of thousands of jobs. Is how we get our mail. What is your feeling about that, and why is he doing it?
Well, why does he do anything? I mean, the fact is that as Democrats in Texas, I'm telling you now that I am the person that we need to have at the top of the ticket in order to energize the base. We will do everything to bring Democrats together to get him out of office. We get him out of office, then we don't have to continue to have someone that demeans the presidency. And every time you hear him say something, you've got to wonder whether or not he's telling the truth or telling a lie.
And I have a question also about the Muslim, Indian, and Pakistani communities in Texas. What do you think about the latest attack on immigrants and right-wing hateful episodes against minorities?
Same thing I've always thought about it. I think it's despicable. You've got to remember that when Charlottesville occurred, this president set the tone for what his administration would be as it relates to issues concerning race and white supremacy. When he sits up and makes a statement that there were good people on both sides of that issue in Charlottesville, that told us exactly what type of president he was going to be on these types of issues. And so it would behoove all of our Muslim and other brothers and sisters, that Muslim and other brothers and sisters, for us to come together and make certain that we do everything within our power to get him out of office, and to get him out of office and get John Cornyn out of office. And I'm telling you now, I'm the person who could do it.
What are some of your ideals on that unification? We've always talked about bringing these different ethnic groups together, genders and things of that nature. What has prepared you to enter the United States Senate and bring all of us together with you as well?
Well, I think you kind of look at my record. I have a record of bringing people together. And I've been able to do that in order to get things done in the state Senate. As it relates to our Democratic Party, we are a party of diversity. The issue of diversity just used to be black and white, African Americans and Anglos. No longer is it that issue. We have people that are, we have gender diversity, we have sexual diversity, we have different ethnic groups as a part of the Democratic Party. And yes, everyone who has a common interest in the Democratic Party's philosophy should be able to have a seat at the table, should be represented at the table. And that's what we're doing. You come to a Democratic Party meeting, you see people from all different backgrounds. We need to make certain that what we're doing in Dallas is replicated around this entire state. You've got to remember, back in 2006, when I was part of the leadership to turn Dallas blue, what we were able to do is to put together a blueprint for the rest of the state. Now Harris County is blue. Austin has always been somewhat blue. And we've got to make certain that the blueprints that we're putting together to bring people together here in Dallas, that we replicate them as best possible around this entire state. We do that, then we're going to be successful in November.
How your opponent is, as you mentioned, she's not here. What would you say to her in regards to this question about the ability to bring people together? What would you say to her if she was right in this viewing area and you had an opportunity to confront her about that?
It's not what I would say to her, it's what I'd say to people that are listening and comparing and contrasting us. I have a history of bringing people together. I've demonstrated that not only as a state senator in helping the Democratic Party. The fact is, I've been involved, and Madam Chair can tell you, I've been committed to the Democratic Party, because every time we need something here in Dallas, Carol knows that she can reach out to me and I will help the Democratic Party. When you begin to think about the issue of candidates, Democratic candidates around the state, I've helped those Democratic candidates. I'm on the Democratic Executive Committee meeting here in the state of Texas. I'm on the, just like you said, the DNC Executive Committee. That shows you that I've not only been involved, but I'm committed to the Democratic Party.
That is so true. Oh, one more time, let's bring in our sponsor list here, because when we do things like this, it's only possible to bring in people like Senator West and others with our sponsors. Tolleson Law, the Honorable Carol and Dan Donovan, our meeting sponsors, once again, the Honorable Terry Barker and Dr. Catalina E. Garcia. And of course, I am just honored to be here. I want to thank Trey for bringing me and allowing me to share this with you, because I'm a lifelong Democrat as well. And I stand by Senator West and I am supporting him. And when we go back to this, Senator West, we had a time where you had a chance to meet the Nigerian community of Dallas and Houston. What was your feeling about that, and how did you feel about the questions that they had, because they had the same concerns about immigration that's been prevalent on everybody's mind?
Well, we know what Pinocchio did as it relates to immigration. He basically said people from Nigeria were no longer welcome in this country. And so when you think about him, comments he made prior to that, maybe a couple of years ago, referring to African countries, calling them SHIT countries. And why would we want people from those countries here in America? That's the attitude. And so it would behoove our Nigerian brothers and sisters that are here, that are eligible to vote, that they turn out to vote. You know, think about the number of people we have here in the Metroplex from different African countries. Probably 10, 15, 20,000. That's right. 10, 15, 20,000 right here in the Metroplex that are able to vote. We've got to make certain that we harness that power and that we bring it into the Democratic Party, make certain that their interest aligns with ours, and that we make certain that we work with them in order to turn Texas blue.
And on that alignment, then I'm going to go to another couple of questions that just came up. How are you going to get the millennials to support you, to vote, to become active? Do you have any plans for that, particularly we have a lot of millennials that are in the Black social media with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. How are you going to reach those individuals and get them motivated?
Well, you know, the good thing is that I have a son by the name of Roderick West that's heading up my millennial effort. And he's making certain that I am in tune with millennial and centennial related issues, okay? And so you didn't know about the centennials. Yes, I do. And so what we have been doing using our social media platform is asking them what issues are important to them. And so what issues are important to them is student debt. over $1.6 trillion in student debt, affordable housing, healthcare, criminal justice, and climate change. Those are issues that are important. So over the next few weeks, you'll begin to see me take different positions on those issues and invite them to ask questions and send in comments about my position, and also make some recommendations in terms of how I need to refine those particular issues and act upon them when I become the United States Senator. In addition, we're going to be trying to use some of the star power that we have in the community in order to get them to come to come out and be a part of the campaign, but be a part of virtual experiences and to engage them to be a part of the Democratic Party and process.
With the new normal, with the virtual, it actually might even be more beneficial because we can probably get a little bit more of them out. I wanted to ask, Trump seems to feel that he's not subject to congressional oversight. And we know that Senator Cornyn has been one of the main, aides in making sure that he does not have to abide by congressional oversight. What do you think can be done about this?
Well, here's the deal. And I understand, I've been knowing John Cornyn for a long time. And I have nothing personal against him at all, but I'm not real satisfied as a constituent in Texas on how he's carried out his responsibilities over these many years. It's real clear to me that he will do anything and everything in order to support the president, because he's going to need the president this fall when I take him on. The fact is that there's several different things that I thought that Cornyn shirked his responsibility as a U.S. senator and not following the Constitution and his oath of office. Look at the impeachment. And now, understand this. This is just one example. Understand that John Cornyn is a lawyer. He's taken an oath of office to be an attorney. He's a former attorney general. He has never, ever presided, participated in any trial where you've never had evidence. He had already decided before he took the oath to serve as a juror in the Senate what his decision was going to be. The only person that had any type of Nick Romney was the only person on the Republican side of this ticket that actually discharged his oath of office. John Cornyn didn't. And so from that vantage point, Cornyn will do everything he can to support that president, because he wants the president to come to Texas to support him. But I'm telling you now, it's not going to work this time around. Not at all. That's why your choice should be Royce.
So with that, what is the primary difference? And you already alluded to it with the dialogue about Senator Cornyn, but what is the primary difference based upon your experience that separates the Democrats from the Republicans?
Well, I guess, the primary differences is going to be ideology. The differences in our philosophy on how we should move this country forward. You got to remember something. When President Obama took office, our economy was in the toilet. And then he had to work with Joe Biden, Vice President Joe Biden, and other Democrats to start bringing it back. Now, I must sit up and say, I would have hoped that he would have waited on healthcare until his second term as opposed to his first term and dealt with the economy first, and then we would not have had as many Democratic casualties. But the fact is that he put healthcare in place in this country. And Republicans are now trying to tear it down. John Cornyn is a part of it. You begin to look at what's going on with Obamacare. They're fighting it in the courts, trying to take it to the Supreme Court to try to get it knocked out. Who is going to hurt as a result of that? Those persons that are uninsured. In fact is, when I become a United States Senator, I have a plan as it relates to these issues concerning the pandemic. One of the things we need to do is that if the World Health Organization that Trump is now trying to get out of, no longer support, if they declare a worldwide pandemic, I think that citizens should have the opportunity that are not insured to be able to enroll in Obamacare to make certain they have insurance. That's one of the differences. Now, are we seeing Democrats and Republicans come together at the national level to pump trillions of dollars into the economy? Yes, but you can be assured of this, Fred, that the reason that that's happening is because of, thank God for Nancy Pelosi, okay? Nancy Pelosi is taking the lead along with her congressional delegation to make certain that she negotiates matters that, frankly, have people's best interests at heart and not necessarily just business.
And let's go back to you again on that. Let's talk about what you have been able to do and what you are most proud of, because when we talk about Nancy Pelosi, you have in some cases been our Nancy Pelosi here in Texas, and particularly in Dallas. What are the things that you are most happy about with your accomplishments during your 27 years? Wow, it's been 27 years. That's
right.
That in of itself is something remarkable. So what are you most proud of? But let me say what I enjoy. The University of Texas here in Dallas.
University of North Texas.
North Texas. The University of North Texas here was something that gave me a sense of, now this is what we're talking about. So I've shared mine. What is yours?
Well, if I had to, I've been blessed to be a public servant for 26 and going on my 27th year. Frankly, I've done things in criminal justice in terms of body cameras, which has been very important. The University of North Texas is down. So I've had over 3,000 students, as you well know, Fred, you and Deborah know, to be able to get internship placements. I've had over 3,000 internship opportunities for students in the district that attend college. If I had to just kind of look at all of the issues I've participated in, whether it's climate change, whether it's LGBTQ issues, the number one initiative is finding an alternative to foster care. I was able to put in place a bill that would allow grandparents, relatives of young people that were taken by the state from their families because of abuse and neglect allegations. Those kids ultimately would end up in foster care, but now there's a great alternative. They can stay with their families now. When you end up having aunts and uncles and grandparents that want to take custody of the kids, they couldn't take it earlier because they didn't have the resources. But I was able to make certain I found some federal dollars to enable those parents now, or those relatives who adopt them, to be able to get a monthly stipend to help raise them. And when you do a 10-year longitudinal analysis on this particular program, you see great results. Those kids are graduating from high school, some going on to college. You don't see them in the criminal justice system, and they are better adjusted as a result of being involved in this program. That's the number one program. That's the number one piece of legislation I'm most proud of as your state senator.
I think that's important that everybody knows this. One other thing you also can, if you'll briefly elaborate about the body cameras that you helped initiate.
Well, as a former prosecutor, you've got to remember here in Dallas County, I was a candidate for district attorney, was a Democratic nominee. That was way back in the 80s, okay? And I saw, as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney, some of the things that were going wrong with the criminal justice system. And yes, there were issues concerning overzealous police activity, and sometimes complaints against police officers that just weren't founded. And so from that vantage point, I wanted to figure out how I could make certain that fact finders had the best information possible in order to assist them in determining what the facts were of a situation. And so I started off with dash cameras. And guess where I got that idea from? A young senator from Illinois by the name of Barack Obama. He passed the bill up here dealing with that. And I said, great stuff, brought it to Texas, got dash cameras. I got called everything except a child of God when I was trying to pass it, but I was able to get Democrats and Republicans to come together in order to pass that law. And so the second generation was body cameras. It was easier. And so we were able to get the body camera bill passed, and it's working. It is working. A lot of times when people get stopped, police will now say, I just want to let you know I have my body camera on. Mm-hmm. And the fact is that police officers are on their best behavior, and in many instances, the citizens that they've stopped also on their best behavior.
Well, Senator, I want to wrap this up and be sensitive to your time because we know that you're busy, but I just want to just say that Nicholas Quintanilla, the founder of the Dallas Young Latino Democrats, you might want to reach out to him because they are very interested in knowing how can they help you in this election. That's the Dallas Young Latino Democrats. And before we wrap up, I just want to again thank our sponsors, and then I want to give you 60 seconds, Senator, to wrap it up. Our series sponsors, Tolleson Law, the Honorable Carol and Dan Donovan, and our meeting sponsors, the Honorable Terry Barker, Dr. Cantina E. Garcia of Hamilton Wingo Law Firm. So, and of course, we want to thank the Senator, soon to be our United States Representative in Washington, for his time. And we want to give you just about 30 seconds or so to wrap up and give us your final conclusion, Senator.
You know me here in Dallas County. You know what I have been able to do as your state senator. You know what I'll be able to do as your United States senator. I think you have to look at our resumes in terms of the persons that are running in this race. You'll see that I have the most experience and I have the best number of references. Christina Ramirez endorsed me. Michael Cooper has endorsed me. Chris Bell has endorsed me. Seema Hernandez, all of those persons were involved in the Democratic primary, and they've endorsed me. The American Federation of Teachers have endorsed me. The Dallas Morning News, the Houston Chronicle, the Fort Worth Star Telegram. And so you see that I've been able to bring people together. The Tejano Democrats, the Texas Association of African American Democrats, Texas Coalition Black Democrats, rather. I've been able to bring people together. And I'll continue to do that. Next week, I'm looking to get the endorsement of the CWA, the Communication Workers of America, bringing people together. You need somebody at the top of the ticket that will spend every day. I'll wake up in the morning thinking about bringing people together. I'll go to sleep at night saying, have I accomplished that goal during that day? Each and every day between the elections on July 14th, starting on July 15th, each and every day I will be spending bringing the Democratic Party together. And if we come together like I know that we can, the same factors that existed in 2006 when we won Dallas County exists today in Texas. We have just got to take a leap of faith and make certain we have people at the top of the ticket that can make this happen. And I'm hoping that you will agree with me that that person is Royce West and that Royce is your choice. Thank you.
And when we talk about the election in July, I just want to just really backtrack really real quick here. Do you have any concerns about the election, particularly with the pandemic?
Yes, we do. And the reality is that we know that most of the people that work at our polls are senior citizens, and that particular demographic is most susceptible to this virus. But let me say this to you, my fellow Democrats, though. You saw what happened up in Wisconsin. Republicans demonstrated voter suppression by keeping the mail-in ballot initiative from happening. That is the classic example of voter suppression. But it didn't stop Democrats. Democrats turned out, and yes, they voted. And so the question now becomes whether or not we will have the same steel, whether we will do the same thing here in the state of Texas, regardless of what Republicans do. And once we get control of the House of Representatives, once we get control of the US Senate, we'll be able to make differences that are fair and fair for all people, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, or independents. We won't do like Republicans are doing now. We won't play gotcha or getting back at you. We've got to do the right thing to make certain that we are in fact our brother's keeper as it relates to allowing people to cast their ballots and making it easier for them to do it in a safe manner.
Don't forget, Royce is your choice. Also, you can support him through funding. He's going to need funding because the campaigns are not free. And so we need to make sure you get sometimes supported with dollars. Show the dollars too, as well as for the Dallas County Democratic Party. We also need your financial support as well as we continue to move forward so that we can make sure that Senator West becomes our United States representative in Washington. And finally,
let me say one more thing. For those of you who want to volunteer or contribute to the campaign or contribute to the campaign or contribute to the campaign, you can go to Royce, ROYCE, West.com.
You got that, folks? Make sure Royce is the choice. And we want to thank everybody, our sponsors. We want to thank the Dallas Democratic Party, Carol Donovan for her leadership. Trey, we want to thank you as well, and everybody that participated. And most importantly, we want to thank Senator Royce West for once again making sure that he has come through. Oh, I've got a challenge here real quick. Somebody has already wanted to do a $500 donation and they want to match. So Senator West, you've already got $500 in the bank and we want to have a challenge here. So whoever we can match that. So we want to match that and exceed that and bring as many of those $500 donations as we possibly can. So we can make sure that you have some bank, because we know Cornyn's got bank and we got to make sure we can match his bank.
That's exactly right. That's
yes,
exactly
sir.
right. So please contribute to it. You can go to roycewest.com. And that was Catherine McGovern. Thank you, Catherine. You've been a supporter from the very beginning, and I appreciate you continue to support me.
Amen. Amen. Well, that's to do it for our virtual summit town hall meeting with the Dallas Democratic Party and Senator West. Again, I was your moderator. Pleased to be here, Dr. Fred A. Jones, and we will be back. And next time, we're going to have both candidates here so we can really have a good time. Thank you, sir.
Take care.